Hey, good afternoon, everyone. 737 MAX is in the news all over again. Why? What happened? Let's go and try to understand what's the saga behind this 737 MAX. So, before diving down into this 737 MAX, let's try to understand a little bit about the Boeing company. As you know, Boeing company is one of the two largest airplane manufacturer in the world, the other being Airbus. So it's a duopoly. So Boeing company is 54th in the Forbes 500 list. So it's a pretty big company, right? So how is the culture and standards in Boeing company? So do you know this guy? This, I don't know where, this guy. So he is Alan Mulally. This guy was the CEO of Boeing, but before becoming the CEO, he was managing the 777 portfolio, as in he was the director of engineering when this beauty was being built. So 777 was one of the best plane, the wide body plane that Boeing has created, just because before this 777 there were no twin engine airplane which were able to cross the Atlantic. And reason behind, you could hear a word called ETOPS. ETOPS is this one. The full form of ETOPS is Extended Twin Engine Operation Standards. So in a layman word, ETOPS means ETOPS 180 was the rating given to 777, and that means you can fly anywhere as long as you have a airport near you within that 180 minutes, which is 3 hours, and which covers almost 95% of the world. So the story goes like this. One day, this Alan guy went to the plant and was talking to different division heads and trying to understand and why there is no such progress in the whole portfolio for 777. He was trying to understand what was causing these delays. So one person told that, Alan, there was a lot of problem in transit. There are a lot of high, big materials moving in from the port to the plant, and trucks were not moving fast. Alan said, it's done, no problem. I'll talk to the authority and take a window in the night and we'll clear the road for you. One person said that, like, even if you open the road, you know what? Like from the port to the plant, if you can have somehow some railroad and it could be driven by, rather than like pulled by the train, rather than driven by the trucks, it will be really helpful. Alan said, done, we'll do it. Somebody said, Alan, in Seattle, there are a lot of rain. He said, done, I can get rid of the rain. But then he realized, oh no, he cannot. So everybody laughed. But the point is, he made those two promises fulfilled. He made a rail from the port to the plant. He talked to the authority to make sure that the roads were unblocked during the nights. So everybody working in that Boeing company were very proud of themselves, that because they are creating some world-class planes and world-class things. So after the delivery of this amazing 777, Boeing was ruling the sky, right? But in 2001, they took two decisions. One, they moved their corporate headquarters from Seattle to Chicago. Now, what happened by doing that? The folks who are building the plane and the folks who are making decisions are not in the same place, right? There's another thing that they did. They outsourced the manufacturing for all the equipments, right? Nuts, bolts, spare parts, to a company called Spirit Aerosystem, right? Now that caused supply chain nightmare, quality nightmare. So we will talk about them later as well, that what these decisions affected, how these decisions affected. Now coming back to the 737. 737 is one of the oldest plane that Boeing has made, the jetliners, right? If you see, this was the first 737 looked like, and it was sold to Lufthansa Airlines in the year 1968. So from then, Boeing, what they are doing, they are upgrading their body. One after other additions and upgrades are made to this particular 737, and then we have a new running plane. With all these addition, what was happening? People were happy because they had a valid, they had a very airworthy body, trustworthy cabin, and everything worked fine. till till the max. So what happened in max? In the year 2010, Boeing realized that it's been quite a long time they have been using this 737. So now they decided to build a plane, narrow body plane from the ground zero. So they said they'll start working on it. Meanwhile, in the same year, what happened? Airbus, their major competitor, came up with a plane, Airbus A320 Neo. So there was already a narrow body airplane from Airbus. If you see all the fleet of Indigo is Airbus A320, and all the fleet of SpiceJet, if you think from the perspective of Indian air market, they are all 737. So A320 had a new offering, A320 Neo. Neo stands for new engine option. What Airbus claimed that there could be a 4% reduction in the fuel. Just imagine what that would mean to a company who is flying day in and day out with hundreds of airplanes, right? Those planes were sold like hot cake. Within a month, they had an order book of more than 1,000 planes. But not everything was good. If you remember, the airline in India, Go Air, they had a fleet of A320 Neo, and because of this specific engine, Neo engine, new engine option, Pratt and Whitney engine, they went to bankrupt. So another day for that topic. But coming back to this, so when Airbus had this long order list, Boeing was really struggling. There were a lot of questions being asked: what to do, what to do. And to no surprise, in July 2010, they came up and said, we will make 737 MAX. That means we'll use the same airframe and use a different engine. Awesome, right? Master stroke. Wrong. Let's find out what happened wrong over there. See, the distance of an engine in 737, it's very low from the ground. If you see like that, yeah. So what happened when you try to increase the efficiency? What one way of doing it, if you have a larger inlet area so that it will give more thrust with the more air. That was the basic principle. So you need a bigger inlet. That means a bigger engine in the front. So if you see, but where will you put the engine? The last generation 737 had their engine almost touching the ground. So if you increase the length of, like if you increase the diameter of the engine, it will definitely touch the ground. So what they can do? They can do two things, right? One, they can start elevating the wheels so that it will stand tall, right? No, it will take time. They can't say that. They can't do that because even if, let's say, it will be considerable less time than building a new plane, but still that would take years. But they can't afford that. Their competitor is getting a lot of orders while 737 order book was becoming dry. So they said, okay, we'll do one thing. If you see the engine here of 737, they have done one thing. The bottom they have cut. If you see, it's not proper round. And this part of the engine, what they said, I'll move it forward. So if you see any 737 engine, to find out it's a 737 MAX, there are few distinctive things that you can look for. One, if you see in the back of the engine, they have this zigzag going on. The winglets were like this, right? And the engine bottom, you have a cut as I've described. So what happened by doing that? They didn't have to make any changes in the airframe. They are using the same 737 but with a bigger engine. Now the problem is when they have moved the engine little forward, they have disturbed the aerodynamic of the plane. Now that's the problem what happened with the Lion Air and Ethiopian Air crash. What these aerodynamic changes did, whenever they were doing a takeoff, the 737 Maxes, what they realized that the nose is going up. So the angle of attack is becoming more than expected, right? So what they did, they created a software called MCAS. What MCAS used to do, whenever it used to sense that the nose is going up, they'll automatically keep the nose down. That's what MCAS used to do. Now, what happened in those incidents, because there was just one sensor and there was a problem in that sensor, even if there were no problem with the angle of attack during the takeoff, the sensor realized that there is a problem and it put the nose down for those planes. And the pilot didn't have any control, pilot didn't have any idea that there was a software called MCAS installed in those airplanes. So they were struggling to make the nose up, but plane had its own mind to make the nose down, and they crashed. So that saga like halted all the 737 production. That saga halted, like grounded all the 737 in operation. Airline like Southwest, airline like SpiceJet, they were all affected by that, right? But after a thorough investigation, a lengthy description, and very lot of to and fro between Boeing company and other airlines, the FAA approved, and now all the 737 MAX 8 specifically are in the air. But why they are in the news again? Again, what happened recently? If you see this Alaska airline, the emergency door got off the plane during a flight and the plane got depressurized. Luckily, not a single passenger got affected. Everybody was sound, safe and sound. But again, all the questions came into picture that what happened? What happened? Right? Is this a problem from the Spirit Aerosystem? Are they giving Boeing substandard, sub-quality materials? What? We don't know. So that's the thing. Still the investigation is going on, but the initial report of NTSB is that there could be a possibility that those nuts bolts were not there in the first place. So loose nut bolt, no nut bolt, two different things, right? And the problem is there are a lot of whistleblowers that they are coming in, they're saying that Boeing is not doing a quality inspection as other airline companies are doing, like Airbus. Boeing is not making sure that the products are up to the standards, right? So I guess I'll just conclude by saying there is a very amazing documentary by Al Jazeera. The title of the documentary is 787 Dreamliner, The Broken Dreams. So watch that. It will give you a lot of insight about 787 specifically, but as a company, Boeing, right? We don't know what the future lies, but I'm not sure I'm ever going to fly 737 MAX again.